What is going on, everyone? And thank you for tuning in to Season 2, Episode 7 of The Ronan Bell Show. With me today is Coach Corey A. Lord, who has created his own basketball and other sports organization called Cal Sports. He tries to help athletes on and off the court. He tries to help the community as well. He's a really great guy. He has a really interesting story. I hope you guys can learn something from him. If you guys like this podcast, make sure you give this a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Hit that follow button, and let's cue that intro. Coach Corey, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Ronan, how are you doing, brother? I'm doing great, man. Every day is, you do better than the previous day. That's what life is about. So with me, you'll never really find me doing bad at all. I'm always in a pretty darn good mood, and I'm always finding good ways to help anyone that's around me. So I'm always in a great mood, and glad to be here on your show.
Appreciate it, Coach. So before we go into anything else, could you just introduce yourself to the listeners out there?
Yeah, so I'm Coach Corey, the owner of Cal Sports Academy. It's a training organization. You can check out our website at www.calsportsacademy.com, 844-225-3343, extension 3. And it'd be my pleasure to help you whenever you need me.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you started that like by yourself, right? You had to really become your own entrepreneur. And my understanding is you didn't start playing basketball until later, like after college. Like most people grow up playing it, but you kind of had like a different path to it.
Yeah, actually I played soccer and ran track and field for my country, Barbados. So I was born in Barbados, and I was introduced to the sport back in Barbados, but never really, played or anything like that, like high school and college. But I was recruited in high school and was recruited in college because I played at the high school and I also played at the college. But at that time in my life, I was really dedicated to track and field. I was really good in track and field. I was ranked in the US. I was ranked, across the Caribbean. So I was a pretty decent track and field athlete. And I also played soccer, and I was really good in two sports, which I was able to represent my country in both sports. So my focus wasn't basketball, but once I retired, I really picked up the love for this sport here, following, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan. And from there, I started reading a lot of books and magazines and reaching out to coaches, NBA coaches, Division I college coaches. They were grateful enough to send back material. And I just pretty much just built my resume day. And to this day, I'm still reaching out to college and professional coaches because you never stop learning. And that's what's unique about, about me and my craft. Love what I do. So every day I find a way how to improve what I'm doing, either being a father, being a coach, being a mentor to someone. So I'm always game for learning, and especially if I can find people like yourself and any of the other former athletes that I can help in any way, man, I'm always game.
And the thing is, when you play like two sports, you're going 1,000 miles an hour all the time. Like you're constantly busy. You're training for one thing after another, and then you got school on top of it. There's so many different avenues that you have to participate in all at the same time. And when you take that away, it's almost like a culture shock because like, what am I going to do with my time now? And obviously, like you picked up basketball, and now it like looks where it's taking you now, which is honestly amazing. But like, what was it like growing up in Barbados? Because most people can't even picture that really in the United States, like from another country.
First thing I would tell people is, you got to travel. You got to get outside of the US if you live here, and you've got to experience other cultures. Um, it's sometimes hard to paint the picture of what your childhood was like. But more importantly, it's probably better for folks to maybe vacation in the Caribbean and get an opportunity to meet the locals. Not where, the glamour of the Caribbean is, where everybody's in pools and and they're eating great foods and stuff. It's good to get out there, the locals, and really try to experience the country and really get to know the people. Growing up in Barbados was a really unique experience, man. It's a small country. Today we probably have about 300,000 people there. My dad still lived there, so I get to talk to him every day. We always talk about the weather, how things look. Sometimes it's bright, sometimes it's raining, sunny, shiny. All different types of seasons. You might have a hurricane here and there. I might be on the phone with it, might be a hurricane, you know. So at the end of the day, it's just kind of like life, man. Life is it's up. Some days it's sunny, some days it's not so sunny, and you're trying to find that mix in the middle where, where am I going to operate today? Because you might get up in the morning and you might be here, and by the time you get to school or work, man, somebody just interrupt your day and just kind of put you back here, in the middle, and then you got to figure out how to stay up. And that's life. So being in the Caribbean, being in the States, being in another country, another part of the world, it's really about your attitude. At the end of the day, what do you really want to do with today? Because if you're not really sure what you're going to do with today, man, tomorrow's going to be tough. Tomorrow's going to be tougher.
And it's especially because you had like a totally different path than most people. Like people go from high school to college in the way I said, I think I've said it before in a couple other podcasts that people in high school are stuck in this bubble. And then when they go out and go to college, obviously you have your stragglers and like some of your friends that come with you and go to the same college. But like you're in a whole new world almost. Like every place you go, there's a bunch of new people to meet, there's a bunch of new things to learn. And like going from Barbados to the United States, that was kind of like a really big bubble that you just kind of, pop and said like, let's go. Like what made you want to come to the United States at first?
Man, first it really a lot of times as a kid you don't really make these decisions, right? A lot of times it's your parents transition from one country to another, and sometimes you don't have a choice. I really didn't have a choice, but I wanted to, because my sister grew here. My sister grew up here in the States. So my grandparents was here, which was my mom's side of the family. They grew up here. So my mom had experienced the States and has gotten a lot from just being in the States. And she was born in Barbados too. And she was able to elevate her life. And she wanted the same thing for her kids. So she transitioned my sister. And then, probably a few years later, 15 years later, so then it was us. It was me and my brother. So we transitioned here from probably about 14 or 15 years old. And we were back and forth. Me being competing for my country, I was back and forth. But I decided to stay permanently here when I was at the age 15. And then I'd go back and forth and compete for my country and then come back and stay here in the States. Then I was doing high school and so forth. So the transition was epic. It was a culture shock. Everything was trying to build a new friends and school and just get accustomed to, the winter and the snow and the coldness of the weather, living in 90-degree weather every day to, getting frostbites, standing waiting for the bus to go to school. So, if it was out there, it happened to me as a kid growing up here in the States with the culture shock. But what I learned here and what I was always able to do with my life was kind of like very observative, right? I know what's happening around me. I know what's happening in people's lives. I know where their failures are, and I know where their successes are. And I just kind of like don't have to go and experience the failures to get that experience. I just kind of like always looking at people and looking at family members, looking at friends, looking at people on Facebook, looking at customers inside of my business. And, through conversations, man, I'm constantly learning. So the culture shock, man, you learn to adapt. More importantly, it's no different than what we just basically went through this last year and currently going through here in the country with COVID-19. We're learning how to adapt. You know what I mean? And that's basically my transition in from Barbados to the States. It's like, are you willing to adapt? Can you adapt? Can you accept your environment that you're currently in and adapt to it? And that's basically what I've done with my whole life.
And it's really, I think COVID was that first, like you were saying, was, I mean, your first time you had a nice culture shock and you had to adapt to the United States. When COVID hit, people had to adapt to work from home, maybe not go out as much. Just like not seeing like the people that they're always used to seeing face to face every week. It was like a weird world for, and now like you start getting used to it. Like people were taking like all my college classes, they're online. Obviously, for some of the things like you do for training now, like they're online. You got to keep adapting to again, the world keeps spinning, guys. It's not going to stop just for like you to, change. It's not going to stop for you to just do whatever you want and, you know, advocate to everything that you need. It's going to keep spinning the way it's going to be keep spinning the way that it's just going. It's part of life. That's what life is. And obviously, in your case, running a business during COVID, how has that been for you?
Man, the first time you know, the first time we were told to close was really tough because you worked so hard to get here and then to be told that your business is going to be closed and you didn't know when it was going to reopen. But the one thing that I've been able to do is always adapt. You have that shock, and next thing you know, it's like, oh my God, it's like, you have to figure out the employees and, what were you going to do with your employees and how are you going to pay them and who is going to go on unemployment. And then once that dust settled in terms of figuring out what you were going to do with the people around that help support the business, it was like, okay, now how do we operate now going forward? So we started doing things like, virtual games, NBA games for, people could join with their Xboxes and do a tournament. We were doing, virtual classes, and it was the way of life. And it was like, okay, well, outside of that, what else do I do? Okay, I started cooking for my family. I started baking for my family. We started to do game nights, and then we started to include other families and then our own families. And we started to reconnect the way that we really should have been connecting prior to COVID. And it's really kind of really created a solid foundation now for my family because even though we're experiencing it, even though COVID lightened up a little bit, we've still been able to keep this bond because this is really what's most important. The family time, the dinner times, be able to sit down at the table and eat, for you to be able to prepare a meal for your family and enjoy it. All those things that we were supposed to be doing, we let life take control of us and we were not in control. And all of a sudden, the folks that realized that they're not in control and that it was time to slow down, slow down. The people like yourself that was trying to figure out, man, there's no school now or the online school. What do I do? So you started your show. Impressive. I always say, like, people that can adapt are going to be the most successful people. And that's why I believe that you're going to be successful because from knowing you as a kid, you've always had that passion and that drive. Even in our basketball workouts, you were hungry. You always remain hungry, regardless of playing time. And we talked about playing time, and your attitude getting back onto the floor was still the same thing. Even from some of the breaks that you've taken, you've always had that passion. And I believe that if you take that passion right now and put that passion that you had for basketball training into your show right here, I'm telling you right now, and I'm saying it right now here on December the 29th at 5:14, you keep that passion up, my friend. In 20 years from now, hopefully I'm alive in 20 years, I can say, hey, man, I did your show. And because you can replay this show right here, this is going to be proof. I'm going to say it first, that you're going to be successful.
Here's the thing that I want more people to understand. I like obviously I appreciate all the kind words. Like to me, like that means the world. But this is what people don't realize. What's happening behind the scenes. Like no one I'll be the first one to say it. I don't think anyone cares how late I stay up at night, how hard I work, how anything like how I balance, doing school, doing this, being a Division 1 athlete for cheerleading. Like my life is honestly kind of insane. But like you were saying, you have to adapt. I used to saying keep on keeping on, plug for the merch right there. But yeah, it's just this way of life that people think that you can miraculously just become successful. I talked about with one of my other guests, Mr. Batista, and he goes, it's like nowadays that everyone wants to take this huge, insane step that's impossible. It is impossible to jump higher than what you are capable of. If you start like a business like you did, I'm sure that the first couple years weren't great, but like that's okay. That's part of anything. If you want to be an actor, you're not going to have a role in some Hollywood picture right away. You have to work on your craft. You have to become way better at it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't happen in one night.
Yeah. The thing is that with success, I think everybody does a really good job envisioning what life should be, right? That like if you ask most kids, you know, what do you want to be if they love basketball? Everybody dreams of being the highest level NBA. I think there was a statistic that was done this week while I was talking to either watching a game or talking to my brother or someone, and we had this conversation. It's like only like 5,000 athletes have ever been able. I think it was on the Charles Barkley show, where he basically said there was only like 5,000 athletes that's ever played in the NBA. And for as long as the NBA existed, just imagine 5,000 people. That's got to be a unique fraternity to be in. And if it's only 5,000 people, it's got to be extremely hard to get there. So when those folks get there, they're getting there because sometimes it's not just, sometimes it's luck, right? But sometimes luck has to come with preparation. Vision has to come with hard work. And I think people most of the time only envision stuff. They only see themselves there, but they usually don't have a plan to get there. And they don't have a plan for failure because everybody has a successful plan. But what's going to happen when you get hit punch in the mouth and you realize now that, oh my God, I can't go through this wall, right? How do you figure, this is life itself. How do you figure out the successes? So starting something on day one, 14, 15 years ago when I started this business, I was in partnership with someone. I start out with another business with a partnership, and it just didn't go well. And I just felt like my partner didn't have the same passion, the same dedication, the same desire. He wasn't willing to, get up every morning and do the things. I was operating on 3 hours of sleep for a very long time just to get this business off the ground. But the one thing that I had is I actually saw this future 15 years ago, right? And the thing was, it was just a matter of knowing what you want to do, what you want in life, and then figure it out and find ways to get help, get people to help you. Because I didn't get here on my own, right? I got here, man, with tremendous help from a lot of coaches, a lot of people, a lot of employees, whether they're with me now, whether they terminated themselves, whether they got terminated from me. They helped me to be where I am today. So I envisioned this, and that's why I left corporate, because I made a great 6-figure salary in corporate, but I also knew that corporate wasn't really where I wanted to be. So like you, starting out now, 3 months into this, in 2035, 15 years from now, you're going to be better than you were today, yesterday, 3 months ago, and every year you're going to get better at this craft. And guess what? You're going to learn so much. And if you just continue to basically highlight the failures and the successes of your show, you're creating a path basically of crumbs for someone else to basically pick up those crumbs and learn from you. So in basketball referee terms, it's like leaving clues for success behind, that when someone finds that clue, they can use that to move forward. And I think that's what I've done with the business, because now I'm getting folks like yourself and other students that are in college or in the workforce that now all of a sudden wants to drop out and come join me in coaching and in mentoring and podcasting. There's so much unique things around the business. But the other thing is that we're all adapting to this environment that we're in with COVID and what we want for ourselves in life. And I think it's a hell of an opportunity right now for anyone that wants to start a business to do so. I really do.
Yeah, and the thing that I like that you were saying is, you have to be honest with yourself. Not everything that you put out is going to be amazing, and that's okay. I like a quote by Gary Vaynerchuk, and he says it's quantity over quality because quality is relative. Not everyone is going to like anything that you put out. Not everyone's going to like you. That's part of life in general. I'm sure that you've had people walk in and they've been like who is this guy? Like come on, like he's my coach, like and that's okay. Not you're not going to get along with every single person you're going to meet. You're not going to do everything right along the way. If I could start over this podcast again, I'd probably do it a little bit differently. But that's where you take that second and you say that to yourself and you're like, oh, wow, like I actually learned something.
Yeah.
And that's like the amazing part of going through some feat. You start a business, you start podcasting, you start becoming an influencer, like whatever it is. There is adversity along the way, but I've learned way more. And I'm sure Coach Corey, you can attest to it too. The adversity really shows what you are made of. So what's like
Right.
adversity that you've experienced? What would you say, you know, what were the hard times like for you?
So I just want to plug Gary, man. If you haven't read Crushing It, you have to. It is unbelievable. If you don't follow Gary, man, you have to. This guy is insanely amazing. I've read his book, Crushing It, and man, it helped propel a lot of the things that I'm doing right now. I'm trying to even get better with video and trying to enhance social media and so forth. So I just wanted to just plug that book and plug Gary because he's an amazing human being that I follow. Back to the question now of adversity. It's been really hard, like to grow the business from year to year. It's been really hard trying to get your own building and be able to do some of the things that you've always envisioned. That's one of the goals and dreams that I have that I'm working towards is trying to get my own facility that one day I could be able to do more for the community, offer more free programming, offer opportunities for basketball to be the way how I envision it to be, because I think today it's lacking some things. And that's one of the toughest adversities right now that I'm facing, that you keep getting kicked down by the banks that don't want to quite give you the funding to build your building. And you're still in this bubble of where you are limited to renting. And there's only so much you can do in one building. You can maximize the space on every hour for an entire year. And there's only so much revenue that you can get. And the banks want you to be maybe twice as much as that. So now it's trying to figure out, like, man, that's just such a roadblock to every year you're stuck with the same, all right, how much can I save? And then you get kicked down with taxes. And there's always something that you have to basically learn from every single year, whether it's with yourself, being a dad, being a student, being a father, being a coach. There's always some adversity every single year that you face with, but that's kind of my hurdle. That's my obstacle right now that I've been battling with, because I know there's so much more that I can do. There's so much more people I can employ. There's so much more businesses that I can partner with to get kids and more exposure. I can do showcases, I can do tournaments. And yes, it's kind of like, it's a business. But at the end of the day, not every business owner is out there to impact the community. Some folks are just straight up trying to make money. That's what business is. And I can't knock those guys. But to me, growing up, not having a lot of things in life, I just feel like my purpose is just to have these opportunities, and I can still do both. I can still make money. I can still be employed. But I think at the end of life is the impact that you've had on people, the impact that you've had on your community is going to leave a lasting feeling in people's lives if you do it for the right reason. And I think from what I've heard from a lot of my customers that they do believe what I believe. Because sometimes saying it is sometimes feels a little fake, but at the end of the day, in my heart, I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. I think a lot of the things that I've said throughout my life is what a lot of my athletes have experienced. To have you back here right now, this is huge because a lot of the life stories that I've told while in all of the training actually leads to where we are today.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, and the thing that I love that you were saying is, I hope you guys really listen to that. That, you keep saying you want to do more, and that's what, like, I feel the same way. Like, nothing is ever good enough. Like, it's just, if you have that stagnant mindset and say you make, you know, $20 today door dashing, and you want to make, and you're just like happy with that. Well, someone else is going to do better than you. Don't you want to be better than that person? And then there's another step ahead of you, another step, and you keep going up. That's how more people should think. Like, everything shouldn't be just a straight line where you just take the same road or same way every day to work. There's so many more things that you can do, and that's how you grow. Like, there's no possible way that you can do the same thing every day and become better. It's just not true. You can take a thousand jump shots every day. Your jump shot will get better, but as a basketball player, you might get better. But then what else are you doing? If you're just shooting, your defense is going to lack. You're not going to be able to dribble as well. There's always something to get better at. And if you say that you do not have time to get better, you are lying to yourself. Straight
Mhm.
up. We're lazy. We're a lazy generation. I'm in it. We're a lazy generation. We love going on our phone, wiping 2 hours off the slate by going through TikTok, and then we're left with, a bad mood. You're sitting there and you're lazy now. Now you're sleepy. Now you're tired. I want to go to bed. Get that out of your mind. You do not need to be looking at someone else constantly throughout your day.
Yeah. To me, it's kind of like, I hate to knock the kids that are on Instagram and social media, because there's guys out there playing video games right now for a living that's basically sit down and be lazy, and their careers have taken off. So it's sometimes it's like I necessarily didn't want to be on TikTok, but I am, right? Because of you don't know what you don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to sit and not go on social media and not have a Facebook page, not have an Instagram, not have a Snapchat, not have a TikTok, not have whatever the latest piece is, because I'm too old to be cool, right? I'm getting out there and I'm going to find out what the kids have to offer. Yes, there might be some laziness, but there's now starting to be opportunities on TikTok. You just got to figure out, where do you fit in, right? And you can be lazy and get lazy results, right? Because time plus effort equals results. Okay. So the time in the day that you spend with the effort that you're going to put into whatever you're spending time with is going to be your results. I don't care what you're doing. It could be school, it could be work, it could be play. Your time, effort equals results. Your time studying, you got time. We all got time. Because if we don't have time, then you're pretty much dead. So we got time. Now, how do we use our time efficiently with effort? It's going to lead to results. So if you get a D in school, you've done D effort. So that's your results. If you're getting A's, you're putting A effort in, so you get A results, right? And you can't tell me that you're doing A work, right? And you got D. It just doesn't work. So you've got to figure out a way how to find more efficiency in the work, in your preparation, in your drive, whatever that particular life opportunity is, whatever that goal is, whatever that passion is. I don't say find education, I said find passion. You find passion, education could be part of your passion. But if you ain't got no passion to go to school, then you're just in school. If you're just going to school because your mom is paying 50 grand or $100,000 for you to go to school, then guess what? That's $100,000 or $50,000 is going down the tube. I'd rather see kids go to a community college and spend $20,000 for 4 years or for 2 years, and then figure out what they want to do with their lives, and maybe then take the other $80,000 that their parents was going to invest in them and start a business.
Oh
Right?
yeah. So yeah, I have a quick shots episode coming out. It should be out by the time this podcast airs, but if it's not, I'm sorry, it'll be coming out. But I talk about the difference between going to a university and going to a community college. And I don't think people understand the difference. Like it's this insane thing where I remember going to an economics class in my college, paying attention for once in a while last year, and I see this stat come up, and he shows there's this chart, and it said all the money that you spend on college, people that get these, $60 to $80,000 per year jobs attending university, and they get a job after, and they're starting in the hole. Well, in community college, you're starting in the hole too, but it's way less of a hole. To go to Penn State, I'm pretty sure for an in-state student, it's 30 something a year. To go to Montco, like the local community college near me, it's about $2,500, I think, for the semester. Like that's insane. And don't think that because you go to community college that you aren't doing the right thing. You're not getting as good as an education. Let me tell you, I will be the first to say that every single college out there is doing the same exact thing right now. It's COVID world. Everyone's learning online. It's so hard to learn. I can understand. I'm a college kid. I'll be the first one to tell you that it is very hard to look into a computer screen for an hour and 10 minutes. I'd much rather be in person. I hope more people would learn more that way. But the point that I'm trying to make is you shouldn't be discouraged about the opportunity that was given to you because some other people are choosing a different path. Choose your own. It's okay.
And you know what, man? I'm gonna be the first to tell you. I've gotten letters from Harvard. I've gotten letters from probably all the Ivy League schools. I was a great athlete. When you're a great athlete, I got recruited for the military. When you're good at something, everybody wants a piece of you, right? But I couldn't afford to go to these schools, right? Even if you have a scholarship, you still can't go to the schools because a scholarship doesn't pay for your plane rides and your flights, and it's just more than that. Education, to me, the world that we live in, I've seen my brother basically went from not getting a college education, working in a corporate, and was already making a six-figure salary with just a bare high school, but a bare high school diploma. And he is one passionate son of a gun because he's a self-learner. It's kind of like my dad. He's a self-learner. He teaches himself pretty much everything, right? And my dad is not a high school dropout, and basically teaches himself how to do everything. Basically built his house by himself, right? And basically fixed his washing machines and teach himself music for the last 50 years. And I'm like, man, the difference between the two most common things between my dad and my brother is passion. My brother was able to go back to school and recently got his degree, right? Didn't need it, but just wanted to. And his reason for finishing his education with an online school that no one probably ever heard about was the fact that when he decided to, or if he decides to leave his job, that he would have a piece of paper that says, that he committed himself for 4 years, right? The true story, man. And I can't imagine how many other kids right now are going to school because their parents went to this school, right? It's kind of like society wants you to have to fall into this trend. And I can't tell you how ignorance, man. It's like, not because I can't even tell you how many parents in the last 20 years that I've been involved sent their kids to colleges and the kids dropped out and is not doing what they thought the kids were going to do, paying the money that they paid for that other kid. And if you had to say, hey, if you could just spend a third of the money on that kid and maybe donate a third of that money to some organization across the world that can use that money to help, man, you know how far we would be? But
Way better.
society have this stigma that you've got to go here, you got to go there, you got to do this. And half the kids are going to school to party. And when school is over, they're book smart. I interviewed a kid today, man, and he comes out with a 4-year degree. He's got a master's, no experience. He did an internship, the whole 9 yards. And at the end of the day, it's like no fundamentals for work environment. Just have straight book smarts. And the common sense piece was almost lost, you know. But the good thing is this human being that I saw, it's like, okay, I think this is somebody that I can take their passion and mold them to make me a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
And be able to help me live some of the dreams that I've had for more opportunities in the community for young people, right? So a lot of times I think what you have to do really with your life, which most people don't do, is to figure out what you really want to do with your life. And I think that's more importantly, that's the hardest thing. And when you leave high school, you're like 20, 21, 22 years old, who the hell knows what they want to do when they're even in going into college? I can't tell you how many parents ask me about this stuff on a yearly basis. Hey, coach, I don't know what my kids are interested in. Would you mind having them come in and do an internship at Cal Sports? I would love to. And if anybody out there is not quite sure what they want to do in life, man, just reach out to me. I have a way of finding, you know, loopholes in people and trying to help people find what they're really passionate about, because a lot of times it's like they don't know what questions to ask themselves. A lot of times they're sometimes asking their parents, and you idolize your parents, so you want to be like what your parents. But man, like a lot of times I meet parents that are miserable in their jobs as well. So if your kids are idolizing you, but you're not really being, and you said it earlier, honest with yourself, then how could someone be honest with you?
Yeah, and people like think nowadays. I love the thing that you said about the piece of paper, because I'm all with you. It is crazy that you need to prove to someone that I can do a job because I went to college and I did my chores. Elon Musk says, you know what college teaches you? To do your chores and become an alcoholic. Like there's so many things that you can do other than your money. Like obviously, like I go to college. I was granted the opportunity where I was capable of doing something after high school, and that's the path that I wanted to do. If you don't want to go to college, Corey's fine. Where did you go to college, Coach? New Jersey,
So, so
NJ.
I went to a junior college. That's all I can afford. Right?
Yeah,
Somebody was able to, and believe me, man, I didn't know what didn't know then, and I didn't have, my mom didn't have money to send me to college. There was no college savings, save up for Corey to go to college, and I was like, man, I'm going to college. And the one coach that had interest in me that kept was Gary Moore from Alfred State. And Gary had so much confidence in me, man. And Gary actually still stay in touch with me to this day. But that was the one guy, man, that I really had a tremendous amount of respect for, to even have that much confidence in me. I remember the night I got off the plane, I had like no place to go. I had no dorm room, no sheets, no pillowcases, nothing. Gary picked me up, dropped me at the dorm, and I was sleeping on clothes. You know, to get through. My roommate, I remember the guy got up in the room next day, was as filthy as ever. And man, we were, you know, I had a lot to learn. And it was tough, man. It was really tough. But the one thing that got me through was my passion for sports and the passion for making something out of my life and not giving up. And it was still expensive because at the time I never really had money. So like maybe like $2,000 a semester was a lot. Well, I could just imagine some kids now are paying $14,000, $15,000 for a semester with books and travel and and everything else that they're doing extremely expensive. So I didn't know what I didn't know. But the one thing is that today I know what I know. And I know one thing is if you're going to college and you have no clue what you're going for, you just donated all that money to the school and you don't have a clue. Believe me, I'd rather you go on the World Wide Web and look up things, because there's so much information out there right now, and people are teaching you things that maybe 25 years ago you didn't know. And if you're interested in something right now, you can almost Google it and teach yourself.
Yeah, people don't have that ambition to go try and learn themselves here. If that's why, like you were saying, like people that play video games, like some people might consider them like lazy, like the streamers and everything that make all that money doing that. But if you look at it, they all started with 0 viewers and probably using, their mom's old camera or their iPhone and something just to get by. Like they started for somewhere from the bottom and worked their way up. Like you were saying, like you don't need to start with a lot of money to do what you want to do. You can learn the internet. If you have a laptop, if you have a phone, if you have some way of, if you have a library near you, you can go to the library. And I don't even know if those exist anymore.
Yeah,
but,
they still do.
but you can go on the internet and learn like whatever you want. I learned everything that I've done for this podcast through the internet. Like, shocker. Like it's honestly insane. YouTube University. It's a thing nowadays.
Here's the funny thing, right? So I went to Alfred, didn't graduate with my 2 years, dropped out because I wanted to go home and help my mom, because my mom was struggling at the time, right? So I was like, man, I'm in school trying to get this education, and and I dropped out to go and help my mom. So I found a job making minimum wage at the time. I was making like 40 hours a week, $199. And from that day till now, I've always taken 20% of whatever I made and put it away for retirement. Man, that was probably about 30 years ago. So 1992, my mom gave me my first bank card, credit card, and I still have that same card today. And I actually have 2 credit cards. The one my mom gave me and the business one. Right? And I maxed out the car. I had credit card debt and the whole 9 yards, like everybody had. But man, I paid off those bills as quickly as I could, because I knew one thing: if I kept that credit, I was gonna be nothing. But let's go back to the conversation we were having just now about college. So here's the funny thing: you can go to a community college, and then you can leave a community college and go to another community college, and you can do 4 years, and you can have 2 associate's degree. You can take up a master's degree at, let's say, Grand Mercy or Drexel, the 2 other universities that I went to for undergrad and grad school, right? Then you can say, I want to do a doctorate and go to Harvard, graduate from Harvard, and at the end of the day, you can just say, I graduated from Harvard with my doctorate degree, and nobody cares how you got there, right? At the end of the day, you can go to a 2-year school and get a degree like I did and build a company like I've done, and nobody cares how many degrees you have, right? Because at the end of the day, you've got to go and take care of yourself and your families, and the best way you know how to. Some people go to the military. I applaud those kids that go to the military. If that's what you want to do, if that's the only way you can pay for your education. You said earlier about people don't want to go and find information because we're lazy, because we don't want to take that initial, because we want the answers to be readily available for us as soon as we hit enter, right? We want that $50,000 paying job to be as soon as we apply. That first interview, we've got to be hired. And I can't tell you, man, if people go back and write stories about their lives, they all have something they all have pretty much a story to be told and a story that can make a lot of money on. It's just how you sell that story, right? But we all have a story. We all have that book of life. And if we just can feature that book on Amazon, on the internet, somebody's going to buy it. And we never know where we're going to be tomorrow until we make that first step. And that first step has got to be a step of progress. And you have to continue to make steps every single day. And sometimes don't worry about the outcome, because sometimes you've got to lay the foundation first. And and a lot of foundations aren't success. A lot of it is just exploring. You're learning about yourself. You're learning about the business. You're learning about people. You're learning about, things that you never really taught. Like becoming a business owner, you learn so much, and you almost sometimes master nothing because you wear so many hats. So
trial by fire. You're not gonna, everything that you go into is not gonna be like people that graduate college. I'm sure that I remember that my one of the college advisors from my high school, Miss Falco. All right, she's not Miss Falco anymore. Sorry about that. She got married. I don't remember the name, but anyway, she went from an art history major to college advisor for high school. Like you never know where you're gonna end up. College is not going to take you in the same direction. You're not going to have that, like you were saying, you're not going to make that $50,000 right away on your first shot. Like some people do, that 0.1% do, that just miraculously like happens. You get lucky. It's, the power of the universe at that point. But, everyone has that different path. You have to be able to manage what you want to do. And something else that I really like that you've been saying the whole time is how much you try and learn yourself. Because at the end of the day, if everything else fails, if you can say that I've invested in myself so much that you can power through that, take money and everything out of it. I'm just talking about life in general, that when you take the hits, that enough knowledge that you're able to figure it out. There's an answer out there. You got to go find it. You got to go read it. I will be the first one to tell you that I did not read books until this year. And I was like, oh my God, you can learn so much from these things. And it's like amazing. My generation doesn't want to read, but listening to these podcasts is something else that I started to do.
Yeah.
When I was working out, instead of listening to music, I started to listen to these. And I was just amazed about how much information that you could learn. Not doing, I won't want to say like doing something else. You can't do two things at the same time, but just like having those thoughts go through your head. It's just amazing the way you can attain knowledge these days.
Yeah, you know what, man? You have to find a passion for, it's kind of like, man, as a business owner, you get, it's kind of like, why are you here? And why the next year you're here? And if you can't go back and look at yourself and be honest, you have to be able to honestly assess yourself. Because once you do it and you're honest with yourself and you're like, well, I'm here because I really didn't do anything the previous year or this year to be better. So 2020 looks the same as 2019. You did basically the same thing you did in 2019 in 2020. Well, we talked about time plus effort equals results. If the results are the same, then you got to go back to the mirror and you have to look at yourself honestly and you have to ask yourself these questions. I think once you become honest with yourself and say, you know what, I need to make a change. I am forever changing because the business itself is forever changing. Life itself is forever changing. This year has been, if I can get through this year, and I've had some tough years in my life, if I can get through this year and God's willing is a couple more days through it, if I can get through the next 2 days and I can get coronavirus behind me, then there ain't nothing that I can't accomplish. Because the last 7 or 8 months, man, have just taught, if you haven't had, people say they've been through adversity. and they don't know how they're going to deal with today, and they don't know how they want to get through. If you're listening to this podcast and your life hasn't been great this year, and you've lost your job, you haven't been able to interact with your friends, you haven't been able to go to school, you've lost the job that you've been on for how many years, and you don't know exactly what you're going to do now, it's okay. The most important thing that you have to do right now for yourself is to find ways to educate yourself, to find information. You have to be able to ask questions. You have to be able to go and find this information. That you have to find what this passion is. What's those deep down things that you've always wanted to do that job has taken you away from because the job was paying great money. And now the job is no longer there. And now we've lost some friends along the way and they're no longer there. So who do you rely on? Right? You have to have a certain amount of faith in life. You have to be able to have spiritual faith. You have to be able to have faith in yourself. And you also then have to have faith in your passion and the things that you're wanting to do. It just can't be the vision. I think this is a unique opportunity right now. If you've been kicked pretty much down on your butt and you're sitting on your butt today and you're making all the excuses in the world and you can't seem to find what exactly it is, it's there. It's there. You just got to make the effort to get off your butt and do something and not let yourself convince you not to do it, because self-doubt is an absolutely disaster to anybody's confidence. But if you can just get up and just kick some sand, and you're willing to kick sand every day, when you look back at your life, you're going to see this day that you start kicking sand, and this day that you feel that you didn't have any place to go, and your life was so deep, your opportunities and your failures is going to be somewhere for someone else uplifting. And that's what I truly believe.
The thing that you said is doing something. It's like a phrase that I think I've said about a million times to a lot of my friends. They think that they don't have time for anything. They think that, this is, I'm a college kid. This is all, nothing really matters. It's BS. It is such BS, man. If you can tell yourself that you can't really do something, man, you don't lie to me. Like, that's such a lie. You can do something. I don't care what it is. Take 5 minutes, man. Take 5 minutes. Start.
We do the things that we want to do. People spend money on the things they want to spend money. It's amazing how people spend money and do things that I can't afford to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'd rather be in debt to do it. And I'm like, well, if you have that passion about that one particular item, then you have time to figure out what it is in life that you really want to do with that same passion. It's like when you start out, you have to be able to say, if I experience something for the next 5 years and I've wasted 5 years, I'd rather waste 5 years on me than to waste 5 years on someone else. I'd rather waste 5 years figuring out what my journey is going to be business-wise than to go and spend 5 years sitting at somebody's desk and computer every single day and be miserable. I'd rather spend 5 years of myself looking at the internet, finding things to learn, than to give somebody $50,000 to $100,000 and then don't know where I'm going. And then I'm $50,000 to $100,000 in the hole anyway, and I have to climb out. And climbing out of $150,000, going to school for a lawyer to come out and be a garbage truck person, not saying garbage truck person is completely, like it's not a good career, because a lot of people are making a living out of it. But when you compare to how much money you can pretty much make doing a low-level, entry-level job and making what a lawyer would make, to get out of the hole at $150,000 making minimum wage, it's going to be extremely hard. And unless you've got 3 or 4 full-time jobs, it's going to be rough. So at the end of the day, you really have to figure out what your passions are. But I also say you also got to manage your passion versus the money that you're going to spend. And unfortunately, I don't know a lot of people that can write a check for $150,000. So most of them are probably putting themselves in debt or their kids in debt. And by the time the kids graduate and they get a 40,000 paying job, really doesn't 40,000 doesn't really buy a whole lot. So a
Yeah.
lot of times it's like, what do you want to do with your life? So it's a really tough scenario to be in. Life itself is tough. Decisions making in life is tough, but I think ultimately you got to make a decision. You got to fall a little bit. You got to fail a little bit. And I think the human nature itself, everybody has this passion hidden in them. You just got to face the right adversity. The right adversity got to hit you, and you'd figure out a way how to get by. I think we're all doing it the best job that we possibly can with what we have today. But I think if you want more, you got to do more.
Yeah, and if you can honestly, I say it to a couple of people, if you are honestly like, it is okay to get a C on a test or anything if you were getting D's before. And if you can look yourself in the mirror and truly say that I did everything, I did the best that I could, then that's okay. But you can do better. You can, if you can push yourself that extra 2 minutes, if you can get off your phone and actually do something for a change instead of spending 2 hours on it, like study a little bit more, maybe go to class, ask another question. That growth potential is always there. There's not ever zero. These millionaires, these billionaires, Jeff Bezos, he's a billionaire. He makes a crap ton of money, more money than ever I would ever think of, dream of. But here's the thing, he keeps growing Amazon. It's not like it stopped. It's not that it's moving in just a straight line. It's still continuing in that upward trend. And
Right.
that's part of life as well. You can't be stuck in that mindset where, do you really want to work that 9 to 5 job the rest of your life that you don't really love and you're going to be miserable with? Like these are like hard questions. It's hard to look in the mirror and say that to yourself, but you got to be honest. You gotta be doing the thing that you want to do, and if you lost all your money today and you still had to do it, would you? That's the question you got to look at yourself in the mirror and do. If you
Right.
couldn't get paid for it, would you still do it?
Absolutely. I'm answering that question for myself. There's no doubt that if I lost everything I had today, that it's emotional, right? You have to get through the emotional phase of disappointment, right? Because we all go there. But it doesn't mean passion, right? It means that's emotion. And we all go through when we're all not making as much money. We didn't get that raise. We didn't get that job. We didn't get accepted to that college. We didn't get what it is that we had so much hope. We were just waiting for that letter and we didn't get it. We all have that emotional sink, right? The air has been taken out. And we all need some of that. The emotions of losing a basketball game, of losing something where you wanted to win. Because at the end of the day, we all want to win, right? But you got to take a lot of L's first, man. And the only way you're going to be able, because you can't really experience winning and the value of winning until you really know what it is losing. If you've never lost in your life, and if you're waiting until you're a 47-year-old like me, you take your first L, let me tell you what, it's going to be tough, man. But if you've been losing a lot and having some wins in there, and that's kind of life. We're up and down. The whole thing is like, find out how you could be consistent so you experience more wins than losses. But it also depends on where you want to go in life too, because if you continue to be like myself, where you're constantly looking for new things to constantly move the needle up, you're going to experience a lot of failure as well. And to me, it's great accepting failure, because then I know I'm doing something right, because I can't nail everything right the first time, right? So I know now with my maturity that there's a lot of failure to come, but there's also a lot of progress to be made from those experiences. So that's kind of my attitude towards, the business every day, that not every service and product I put out is going to be an A plus. Because to me, A is average, So at the end of the day, I don't know what that magical letter is that defines success in business, but I can tell you one thing. Whatever it is out there, I'm chasing. And I don't think there's any one particular letter that will determine my success, or one particular letter that will determine my failure. To me, I'm never will be defined because I'm always going to be chasing something. Period.
Don't let a number define you. Don't let a grade define who you are. People I remember a couple of my friends got so upset because they failed this test or like whatever. And I told them, I said, you know what it is? A number. It's just a number.
It's a
What's
number. It's a
it's
number
not
and like $3,000 or $4,000 behind it to retake that
yeah. Yeah.
class.
And they get like so upset with themselves. Like, oh, it's the end of the world. I'm not gonna be able to do this next class and like that. It's like I'm sitting there thinking like, whoa, okay, whoa. You're here right now. You cannot control anything that is going to happen 2 months, 3 months, 1 year from now. You can control what you are doing right now to help you achieve the things that you are going to look forward to in the future. If you're so worried about what the future may hold, you'll never really live in the present day. And that's like, it's sad. Like, live in the moment. Guys, like it's okay to have like that emotional feeling. That's what like life is about. Like that's like makes you feel human. Everyone experiences that sadness. Everyone experiences that happiness, hopefully. And
Right.
that's just part of like being a human. Like it's amazing how, at least in my mind, that you can go from so high to so low and it fluctuates. It fluctuates constantly. Not every
Yeah.
day you're gonna wake up and feel 100%. That's okay. But if you can push through those bad days and still do the things that you want to do, that's what's going to make you have those good times be even better, because you're going to look back on that and say like, wow, like if I can do that, like you were saying, if you can get through this year, I can do anything.
Yeah. You've got to really have that mindset, man. You have to have that attitude. You've got to have an unbelievable amount of confidence in yourself. You have to be able to get past the noise of the naysayers, the negativity. Sometimes it's your own family members that tries to, you know, add that negative effect to what that spin to it. There's the person that's never experienced what you're about to experience don't necessarily want you to experience that failure, that success. There's people sometimes that ride with you every day, but in the back of their minds, they're hoping that you are never success so you can remain average. Um, there's people that genuinely want to see you grow as a person and will camp when basically would be out there just basically campaigning for you or just celebrating any ounce of success that you have. And you have to find those people. But I say to all your listeners out there and for anyone that will see this podcast later on, you know, if you are hanging out with four losers, you're going to be the fifth one, right? If you're hanging out with four smart, intelligent business people that is moving the needle every single day, you're going to be the fifth one. You got to choose who you want to be around. You want to choose which books you're going to read. You want to choose which people you're going to hang out. You want to choose people that are going to light a fire underneath you. You want to hang out with people that's going to be brutally honest with you, but at the same time still loving and caring. I've been able in 2020, man, removed a lot of people from my life that I know that were just naysayers and just riding along. They ain't no writers anymore. There's people now that is easily inspiring me because they have something to offer, right? And they're helping me move me as a person. And they're not in it for anything other than to see me win. And you got to find those people in your life. And when you get rid of those people and those friends out of your life, you'll be able to move so much further along because you've got to get the negative people away from you. You got to get the negative people. You've got to get the negative situations, environments that you're in. And you have to find a way where you're in a positive environment where people can influence you. People can, to show you the career paths that they've been. And this year, man, it's been huge. I got rid of some people from being around my circle. And man, I can't tell you how I exploded. Change is, you have to adapt to change. And if you can make some changes in your life, then you're on the right road.
It's okay to you got to make sacrifices.
Yeah,
It's
make
just
sacrifices.
it's part of it. Now, I'm sorry if you can go your whole life without making a sacrifice. Hey, man, kudos to you. You must you. I want to know what you did. You should write a book. I want to read that. But you got there's things that you have to take away in order to do the things that you want to do. Nothing comes easy. If you want to become smarter, maybe you should give up the video games for a hot second, and instead of spending an hour there, read a book, or instead of playing video games for an hour. Read a book for 30 minutes and then go play the video games to start out. And something you said was that you hang out with, you got to hang out with people that are in your circle that, want to make you better. My cousin Alan said something. Alan Levin, the former CEO on one of my other podcasts, said steel sharpens steel. Steel sharpens steel. You are only the product of your 10, 15, whoever else you hang around with, your 5 closest friends. And it's true, because they're going to challenge you. You don't get anywhere by yourself unless you have some insane motivation that's internally, but not everyone has that. Not everyone has that God-given talent to say, I'm just going to, go through a brick wall every day for the next 30 years. Not everyone has that. You need some other people around you that are going to be like, hey, man, like, we're not letting you tag behind us. Like, we're doing it too. Like, you can't go down. We'll bring you back up. And that's where, like, human relationships, it's human culture and human nature to bond with someone else and to talk to someone else. It's life. It's how
Yeah,
it works.
it,
Science
it's
backs it up.
it's like 5 words that I live by on a daily basis, right? And you basically say, well, I've got to, number one, get up every single day and be motivated. So I gotta have motivation every single day, right? I've got to be committed to something every day. So my commitment, my motivation, my commitment, my determination, right? So 3 things, right? I now have to have strength, which is my faith in me, right? And then it's teamwork. There's a number of people in my life that I have to depend on daily that will help me move the needle along the way. And from my wife to my kids to my accountant to my lawyer, my accountant Terry, and my lawyer Chris, these are people that help move the needle in my life. My wife and my kids are all my inspiration. My kids are smart. They all have their master's degrees, 2 of them. And my youngest one is now getting ready to go to college. So I'm learning from those guys as well. So my circle of having that faith there to help push me through each day, that's the circle that you want. People that are going to hold you accountable, people that's going to still love you. And at the end of the day, you know that when things go wrong, those are the people that you can get on the phone quickly and inspire the heck of you. And I can't even forget to mention my good friend Jeff, who owns One Slick. He's a realtor. He's been huge in my world, because when I started my business, there was really not a whole lot of people that truly believed in the mission that I was, but I can tell you that guy was, and he's still around me today. It's 15, maybe 16 years later. And that guy, actually it's about 17 years, because I met him a couple of years before I started my business, but we reconnected after losing touch for a few months. And when he found out I was doing my own business, man, he really helped me foundationally to get everything up. So I always got to give credit where it's due. But yeah, I'm just happy to have a great group of influencers around me, but people that are actually running their own businesses that are giving sound advice. And, I got to the point now where I really don't listen to people unless they've done something with their lives. Don't give me advice if you haven't done where I'm trying to go. If you haven't been there, it's very hard for me to take advice from you.
Gotta be credible. If you're gonna talk the talk, better walk the walk. That's
Yeah.
something that I like to say. But Coach, before we turn off the mics, I like to do a quote segment. So I know you probably got a whole book of them. I know you know a lot of them. So what's one quote that you kind of like to read it over again? A lot of people have like a mantra. So if you had to choose one, what would it be? I see you thinking pretty hard there.
No, I'm not really thinking hard. It's just really to figure out which one I really wanted to, but I always go back to, Michael Jordan, my favorite human inspirator that I haven't met, right? That I kind of always feel like, man, I'm the young guy, the young Michael Jordan that had all the success, right? Never experienced anything even relatively close, but I always kind of feel that that is somebody that you looked up to and someone that you'll continue to model yourself after. But I always think of the 1,000 shots, that he takes, and the 1,000 shots that he missed. But the 1,000 shots he didn't take, he would never know if he would have made one of them if he never took those shots. So I failed and failed over and over again. And that's why I'm successful. Michael Jordan.
You got to try. Without trying, you'll never do anything. You won't succeed. No matter how hard you want to tell yourself, you got to try it. This was an awesome podcast, Coach. I just want to thank you again for coming on the show today. It has been awesome. Is there anything else you want to plug before I turn off the mics and everything we go on with our night?
Yeah, man, check out this podcast here with Ronan Bell. It's been awesome. I'm glad that you thought of me. I'm glad to see that you're well. Say hi to your mom and dad. That's important. Tell your moms, my mouth is still watering from those cookies she made me a couple years ago. Tell your dad I miss having those conversations with him. They've done an incredible job raising you, my friend. Kudos to those two gentle human beings, kind human beings. I've had, great conversations with your dad and oftenly admire your mom. You've got really good parents. I'm pretty sure they're proud of you. And I'm proud of you too, to see how far you've come with your life. So congratulations. I know in my heart you're going to do good things. And I hope to be around when you're successful.
Coach, I appreciate it. When the royalties start kicking in, you'll get a piece of it too. So
yeah, just donate a small piece back to the community that I can continue to help these young people, man. And if that's all that can be done at the end of the day, love you, brother.
Hey, Coach, again, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Guys, that's a wrap for another episode. Make sure you hit that follow button if you haven't already. Leave me that 5-star rating if you really enjoyed this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Guys, it says here, plug the merch. I got to plug the merch. So, guys, I got merchandise on the RonanBellShow.com. Remember that all of the funds that come from my merchandise go back into this podcast. I can do giveaways. I make the equipment better. I can make this over, have some more guests, have some, more content for you guys out there. If you guys are interested in helping me out, it would mean the world to me. Check out my other podcast series, Quick Shots. I hope that's out by now. If it's not, I'm slacking. But anyway, guys, if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. I've gone through the list, I think, a little bit out of order, but that's okay, guys. That's all I got today. I need some water. I just talked a lot for a hot minute. But guys, have a great rest of your day. If you're going through anything, I hope you can get through it. And as always, y'all just keep on keeping on.